Hi friends, it's me, your Sinister Sewist. And today I'm going to teach you about the running stitch. All right, so normally I would use a matching thread as close as possible as I can get, but today I'm going to use a contrasting brown linen thread. I'm just going to get about an arm and a half worth of thread, and I'm going to condition it by waxing it with a block of beeswax. So hold the beeswax in one hand and grip the block while you run the thread over it, and I do that several times just to coat the thread thoroughly. So when I sew with linen thread, I do not double my thread. I just do a single thread and leave about a 6-inch tail. And I'm going to tie just an overhand knot at the other end. And I do a double overhand knot. You tie your knot however makes sense to you. Okay, so I've got a couple of pieces of linen here, and I'm going to sew about 1 centimeter away from the edge, and I'm going to start my first stitch on the left edge here, coming from the back. You could start in the front, it doesn't matter what side you start from, and it also really does not matter where you end. So you could have a knot in the front and a knot in the back at the beginning and at the end. That's fine. Now I'm going to go down into the fabric to the back of the fabric, from front to back, and then from back to front, a little space away. Try to keep your stitches fairly small and equally spaced. You can also just load up your needle with a few stitches at a time and then pull through, and that will save you a little bit of time. You just have to make sure that when you're stitching, your stitches stay even and fairly small, like this. Now if I keep going, I'm just going to load this one up, making sure I catch the back fabric as well. Okay, so I wanted to show you what happens when your stitches are really big. If you create big stitches that are far apart, they're not going to be as strong. They're good for gathering stitches, but they are not good for strong seams. So if I open up my seam here, you can see a fairly strong seam, but you'll notice that there is a hole or a gap where the larger stitches are. So keep your stitches small and even. Now when you get to the end of your seam, make a last stitch, and you can make a knot from the front or the back, it doesn't matter. Mine just happens to work out so that it's in the front. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a tiny stitch underneath where the thread is coming out of the fabric. And I'm going to pull my needle through but leave a little loop. Put my needle through that loop and pull, and I've created a knot, but I like to go back through again right underneath that little knot because it's really just a half knot at that point, and complete the knot like this, and then you can snip your thread. Now of course you can make smaller stitches if you want even smaller stitches. That will create an even stronger seam. There it is. So if I open up my fabric to test the strength of my seam, you can see it's pretty strong. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about the left-handed running stitch. That stitch is wonderful for any sort of seam that does not require any sort of strength or anything that has to be under any strain. So seams like skirts or looser sleeves, that seam is great for. Now, if you need a stronger seam, then I suggest you watch my half back stitch video and my back stitch video, and that will be coming next week. Please let me know if you have any questions or ideas for shows. I'm always open to suggestions. So have fun, have a great week, and I'll see you next time. So that was the basic running stitch, which is just... So that was the basic well, I hope you learned...